Okay.
Good evening. Today is January 14, 2021. My name is Samantha Villarreal. I am an interviewer for UTSA's Oral History Research Project over COVID 19 and the impact it had in our San Antonio community. This project is directed by Dr. Winnie Chappell. Our guest today is Daniela Bonilla. Thank you for giving us your time. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Sammy. I am a student here at UTSA. This semester, I am starting my clinical teaching. I am in the bilingual EC through 6. And yeah, I've known Sammy for a little bit through Bessel. And this is actually the second degree I am pursuing with UTSA.
Nice. So you're starting clinical teaching this semester?
Yes, I'm in the clinical teaching training days right
Oh,
now.
are you doing the year long?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And what is your family life like? Has it changed since you started college, or has it remained the same?
Uh, I mean, I used to live with my parents, and then I kind of moved around a bit, and then I've been back in San Antonio to start pursuing this degree, my teaching degree. And I was living with my parents for a little bit. My dad passed away 2019, and then I started living in my own apartment. And ever since the pandemic hit, I've been back at home with my mom because my lease ended and it just didn't make sense to renew somewhere while the chaos was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
What has shaped you into the person that you are today?
I would have to say it is my family. They are a driving force in everything that I do, and they support all of my goals, big or small, and my boyfriend as well.
And what do you want people to know about who you are now?
Oh man, that's a good one. Um, I guess I want people to always recognize that I am a person that they can come to with whatever. I might not have the exact answers that they're looking for, but if I could help anyone in any kind of way, that's the person that I want to be.
And how did you feel in mid March when life started to change because of COVID 19 in the US? Did it change for you?
Yes. So, um, mid March in 2019 was when my dad passed away. So then when it happened in 2020, it was kind of like, oh man, this is happening again, like I'm going to have a bad year again kind of thing. And then my birthday was around the same time that the university closed down, and I lost my job at the same time because I worked for a bar and obviously we got shut down. So it's kind of like I did hit the panic button pretty soon and pretty hard.
How did your feelings evolve with like the following weeks and months?
um I think at first it was just a lot of worry, what we were going to do, what I was going to do for income, how I was going to be able to support myself. It was also like, what could I do for my family? What could I do for my community? Because I wanted to make sure that everyone was taken care of, kind of thing. And then it was like really hard for me going to the grocery store and seeing a lot of like elderly people. So I started reaching out with some of my friends who, we started doing grocery pickups at the very beginning. And so we could deliver them to our neighborhood or our neighbors who are elderly. So, and then as the months went on, it's kind of just adjusting and listening to what our government was telling us, and our school was telling us, and kind of just trying to stay as positive as possible.
That's pretty neat that you like reached out to your community and helped the elderly. Because I agree, whenever I will go to the grocery store, like HEB, and like I will see them, I would just be like, oh, like,
Yeah, I know. Broke my heart.
yeah. Because I would think of like my grandparents. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
so I understand. What seemed normal before COVID 19 that now seems very strange to you?
Um, Maybe like bars. We would be like jam packed in bars all the time, especially because I worked in one. And now it's like, oh, like, why do you want to be around so many people at the same time? Or like when you go to the grocery store and the person in line behind you is like right behind you, I'm like, why are you so close to me?
Yeah, I agree. I panic sometimes, and I'm like, I'll choose
Yeah.
a different time. Early in the pandemic, what concerned you the most about the coronavirus?
I think the unknown part of it, you know, there were like rumors that it was already here before. We hadn't done anything about it. Um, and then it was just so unknown, it was like it would only affect the elderly and then it would affect the young. And then there was like some in between. And then my boyfriend was also in New York at the time for his job. So we were worried he was going to get stuck there. And because it was a central hotspot for it, we were
Yeah.
just really panicked about that.
And I know you talked a little bit about your job. How did COVID-19 affected your job during this time?
Yeah, so I was bartending at a bar downtown, and I'd only been there for a couple of months. And we were first kind of just talking about it, and there was rumors that bars might have to close down. And then it first started that we like stopped letting so many people in. So we moved tables around, or you can't sit at this one. And we put hand sanitizer everywhere, and we would sanitize door handles and the bathroom like probably every half hour. If someone was sitting at the table and they left, we would clean it off immediately. And then we got the news that bars were being closed down by the state. So, yeah, I clocked out one day not knowing it was my last shift. And then
Oh, wow.
we got a text, and, the owner said, hey, like, stick around. We're going to try and figure something out. And then we were closed for about a month, and then we reopened for a couple of weeks, and then we got shut down again. So after that, I didn't go back because I was like, well, I can't just keep doing this thing where it's
Yeah.
on and off kind of thing. I need something more steady and more steady source of income. So I started looking for nannying jobs, and that's what I've been doing as I've been taking care of a little baby.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did you feel about these changes?
Um, I mean, I feel it was like a good move for us to be doing it in our bar, but it's obviously not enough. You have people in a bar where, I mean, once alcohol gets involved, people lose sense of control, sense of themselves kind of thing. So people would get belligerent sometimes and want to not wear their masks. So if you got up from your table, you had to wear your mask. And we had instances where people didn't want to obey that and they would get kicked out, but we would have to deal with that confrontation. So, I mean, there's only so much that we can do, but the other half like has to do their part too.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think will happen in the future?
Um, I hope people will be a lot cleaner. There's a whole bunch of people who don't wash their hands when they come out of the bathroom. I think I've stopped touching my face as much as I used to. Um, and just like be more respectful of each other, our space, and more thankful for those who were on the front lines during this difficult time.
I agree. How has COVID-19 affected you and your family's daily activities? Did it change your daily schedule or did it stay pretty much the same?
Well, as you know, all UTSA went virtual.
Yeah.
So all my classes went online. So it was kind of just, I guess, not figuring out a new schedule because they were still like classes were still at the same time. But I don't know, I guess figuring out who's going to be in what room during what time because my mom is also a teacher and they went virtual. So So it's like, who's going to be like upstairs having a class and who's going to be downstairs having a class kind of thing. And my lunch is at this time. What time is your lunch kind of thing. So
did y'all have to work a schedule like together to see how it will all work out? Or
yeah, so we would just be mindful of each other, and like if I wasn't in class, I'm not upstairs making loud noises or trying to use the blender in the kitchen kind of thing.
And are you staying in or going out, and what are you doing to pass the time if you're staying?
I think since March, I've only gone to one restaurant. And that was like very recently, just to have some sense of normalcy, I think. While I'm in my house, I spend time with my boyfriend. I've been reading books. The good thing is that school has kept me occupied. Beso has kept me occupied. I have a dog as well. I take her on walks, and watch TV every now and then, or my boyfriend and I will watch a movie. And then I have a lot of family too, so we've been doing a lot of Zoom calls as well.
That's good. Have you changed how you see and communicate with? Oh, how? I'm sorry. Have you changed how you see and communicate with your friends, and how?
Yes. It really sucks. I think all of my friends have continued to go out and party, and I just, like, for me, that's not a choice. I help take care of my grandparents, and I live in a community where I can't just think about myself and my needs. So it's hard. I've missed a lot of birthdays and birthday parties, but I feel maybe ostracized by them a little bit. We haven't kept as much in communication as we normally used to. We had a trip planned. We always have a yearly girls trip for September, and that got canceled. So I think we're slowly starting to drift apart. And I'm not like angry with them. They make their choices for themselves, and that's what's right for them, maybe, but they also, I feel like they should respect that these are my decisions as well, and I don't think they see it that way.
I completely understand that. The same situation. What have been the biggest relationship challenges that you have faced during COVID-19?
I think being like around the same person day in and day out, I think everything is like heightened, or you start noticing those tiny little things and you're just like, why are you doing that? Or why are you breathing so loud? It's just silly little things, because before it was like always moving, in and out kind of thing, or you wouldn't spend so much time together. Now it's like, here, we're all here, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So finding just like some time by yourself is also difficult.
I agree. How has COVID-19 affected your community? I know you talked a little bit about helping the elderly in your community. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so one of my friends, I've known her for a couple of years. She lives more towards the downtown area of San Antonio. And we just started recognizing that there was a lot of just report in the testing sites between areas of privilege within San Antonio, versus the Hispanic or the Latinx community. And we just wanted to make sure that they were being recognized, that their needs were being met. And so, we kind of just started sending text to people we knew, hey, like, we're available for what you guys need. Let your grandparents know. We started putting our information on a Google sheet and sending it out, and kind of just letting people know, like, you can reach me, like, this is normally the times that I'm available to go, let me know. And it's not even just to the store, it's like, hey, you don't want to cook tonight, like, let me go pick up dinner somewhere for you kind of thing. Or people that used to take public transportation was another thing, and maybe they were struggling in that area. So that's kind of what we were doing.
That's pretty nice. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely, it feels good to
yeah.
know.
And how are people around you responding to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Um, I think, like I said, I have a really big family, and some of us live here in San Antonio, some of us live in California, some of us live in Florida, some of us live still in Colombia. So Colombia got shut down completely, so there was no getting out. Like my aunt and uncle couldn't leave their house unless they had a special pass. So for them, it was very difficult. So, we try to keep in communication with them as much as possible so that, I don't know, their schedule got changed way drastically. And then my family in California, I think they've been way more precautious. Um, but they also have the means to not have to leave their home, like they have the extra money to pay for groceries to be sent to their house. And I'm a broke college student, so I don't really have that option. So, it's different in every group. My mom and I are super precautious, especially because I help take care of my grandparents as well, of always wearing a mask, and immediately getting home, changing clothes kind of thing, washing our hands. And then my brother, on the other hand, he's always been a social butterfly. So I think he has buckled down a little bit, but every now and then, like, he has friends come over, and he also worked in the restaurant industry. So there was kind of no escaping it for him either, but he lives in Austin, so he doesn't come over that often either. Sometimes we'd have to tell him, hey, you were out with people, like, you can't come and see us this weekend. You have to take your 14 days and stay away.
And have you seen the people around you change their opinions, like day-to-day activities or relationships in response to the pandemic?
Yes, I think like my boyfriend specifically has been more communicative with his family. Like, he's not Hispanic, he's white. So I feel that they have very different cultural standards about family as opposed to someone like me. I text my mom every single day. We have a group chat with my cousins. I have a group chat with my mom and my brother. And so for him, like, seeing him talk more with his family, like, I think he understood the importance of, we were just seeing people, like, unfortunately die left and right. So it was like a moment to appreciate everything that we had, and that's our family.
Yeah, I understand that. I have to call my mom every day. If I don't call her for one day, she's like, "Where are you? Are you okay?"
Yes. She's like, I can't sleep if I don't know.
And have you or anybody you know gotten sick during the COVID-19?
Not anyone in my inner circle. I think like friends that I have had in the past, or people who I've worked with, I've seen posts on Facebook or Instagram, but not my immediate family or my boyfriend's immediate family, no.
And have you gotten a COVID-19 test before?
Yes. I went to donate blood because I'm O negative, and apparently that's the most needed right now. So I went to go donate, and my boyfriend went to go donate too. And I had never donated before because I've never met the weight requirement for it. So it's kind of like a really big deal for me. And then the day after, we went to my grandparents and we were cooking dinner for them, and we got an email saying that one of the person who helped us at the donation center tested positive for COVID. So we obviously started panicking, left my grandparents immediately, and we scheduled to get tested, and it was awful. I don't know if you've gotten tested yourself, Sammy, but that cotton swab in the back of They say it's only 5 seconds, like up there, but I was like, this is the longest 5 seconds of my life.
Yeah, I've heard like people say it's like not too bad, and I heard people say that it was like the worst experience they've had.
Yeah, well, when I went with my boyfriend, we did a drive-through one.
Okay.
And like the lady told me, she's like, okay, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. She told me like sit on your hands because your immediate reaction is gonna be to like try to swat at me or try to like get it out. And I mean, she was pretty gentle with me. It still feels really weird, but with my boyfriend, the lady that did his, like, was just like lower the window and was like, and just like didn't give him a warning or anything. So I
Oh,
felt
no.
bad for him.
And how worried are you about getting the virus?
Um, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 7, and it's not for my own reasons. I'm pretty healthy. I don't have any not known illnesses, I guess. But it does worry me because, like I've said, I take care of my grandparents and my mom too, and it's not about that me aspect, it's about my community aspect.
And how do you think COVID-19 is affecting people's mental health? Since some people had to change their schedule and like some people are staying in a lot. How do you
Yeah.
think it's affecting them?
I definitely think it showed us as a nation that we weren't properly taking care of ourselves enough. Um, and then, there are so many programs that have popped up, like BetterHelp, where you have an online therapy or therapy sessions moved online. Um, but yeah, I know a lot of people are struggling. My best friend hates being inside, and she's been going crazy, and she'll call me and she's like, hey, I don't know what to do. I need to talk to someone else. Like, so it's hard. And I know people who live by themselves, what do they do? Or my grandparents also used to go to this like gym for elderly people, and they would play games and talk to people there. And so their contact has been limited as well. Myself, I've dyed my hair 3 times in like a span of 6 months, and that's not normal. um, so, I think it's taught us that we need to start taking better care of ourselves and take some time and, do things, sometimes for people it is therapy. Sometimes for other people, it's that Friday night where you do go out with people. Everyone has a different way to unwind.
Yeah, I agree. I dyed my hair purple so many times during
Oh my
that
gosh.
time period until I had to do clinical teaching. But I look at pictures and I'm like, why did I do that?
Same. I had the 2 little purple strips right here. And so when I would do my teaching, I would like pin it and then put like other hair on top of it. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like I look at pictures and I'm like, why did anyone tell me anything? And what are you most looking forward to when the pandemic is over?
um, I don't know. I guess concerts. I used to love going to concerts, but again, I think it'll be really weird going back to a concert where there's me and like 10,000 other fans of something. So I think if we do the right thing and we get vaccinated, and it's going to take some time before I take off my mask even, I think. So I guess baby steps would be going out to a restaurant and not having to sit on the patio.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think like not wearing a mask when I go outside, I feel like weird. I'm like, it's become like a
Yeah.
habit. And how has technology played a role in your life during the pandemic? So I know a lot of people, I know Animal Crossing came out and then people got really into TikTok. Did you use any of those or different type of technology?
Yes, I got TikTok. I haven't posted a video myself. My boyfriend has posted videos of me on his profile, uh, but we do watch TikTok. And I think that's kind of like at the end of the day when we're unwinding, we'll be on the couch and then we'll just watch TikToks until we get sleepy and go to bed.
And then have you been getting your where have you been getting your news during the pandemic?
So I don't know how normal this is, but I don't watch the news. I didn't watch the news pre-pandemic. I don't watch it now. I just feel like I always hated that aspect of where they would tell a really sad story and then they'll be like, and now the weather. And you're just like, what? Like, that's not normal. That's not how we talk to one another, kind of thing. And then I think it is skewed depending on which channel you watch, like you can tell which way they lean, and it's not right. It should be leveled because that's our source of information. So I follow like government officials on Twitter, see what they're saying firsthand instead of seeing it from ABC or Fox or CNN. I get my source directly from them.
And what do you think of how the pandemic is being covered in the news?
I think it was really downplayed in the beginning. I think they should have done a better job of preparing us because it went from like it's nothing to oh crap, like everyone take shelter. No one knew what we were doing, how long we were going to be inside, and they just created a panic that could have been better handled. And it's not the news. I think it's more of our government officials who did that to us.
I agree. What have local leaders done in your community in response to the pandemic, and what do you think of their response?
When I look at it, I don't think it's so much the leaders of the community, but the community itself taking care of each other. It's especially I saw it during the Black Lives Matter movement part of 2020. Was those who were actively reaching out, and saying like, hey, do you need a ride? Hey, I'm going to be at this spot. I have sanitizer, I have hand masks, I came prepared, and we were taking care of each other, kind of thing. I think that's the bigger portion of what we should be looking at in regards to COVID and our community.
And do you have any thoughts on how the pandemic has been handled in the US or in Mexico or anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, I think New Zealand did an amazing job of taking care of it. They were basically like, nope, we don't want to do that. And they shut it down and they took care of their people and they compensated them. And I mean, it's gone there, And the second time it came around, they had the exposure, they did the same thing and it was taken care of, That could be us if people stop playing games.
I agree. If you could go back in time and talk to yourself before the pandemic, what would you tell yourself?
Stop buying hair dye. But also, like it gave me a lot of time that I normally didn't have before, like time to enjoy my family, time to enjoy my boyfriend and my dog, because it's like with being in school and being in organizations and working, like you have very little time. So, it's like find things to take care of yourself, You don't need to be in a pandemic to justify having mental health issues or to seek therapy, Life itself is hard, and you need to take care of yourself. And I think everybody needs to take care of themselves.
I agree. I didn't realize how busy I was until we had to quarantine. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I have all this free time.
Yeah.
And how has the pandemic changed who you are and how you see the world?
I think I've always been a realist. So I analyze every situation and, I'm like, if this happens, this is what we do. And if this happens, this is what we do, So I think the pandemic has kind of slowed me down and just say, hey, like, it's okay to enjoy it. You don't need to have a plan for everything, because you're adding so much more stress on yourself than you need to because the chances of something happening, I was always panicking for the what ifs. And
Yeah.
then it's like, it might not even happen. So why am I going to continuously stress myself and my body out, and stress out my boyfriend? It's unnecessary.
And how do you think the pandemic will have a lasting effect on the world, even when it is over?
Man, I hope that people see the things that teachers are doing for their students to make sure that they've been okay. Um, thanking those who are in mental health and helping everyone who has needed it. Respecting each other's personal space, I hope. Um, and I guess also like valuing people's time. I think we realize how important that is. So if you're not gonna take me seriously or you're not gonna pay attention to me, like I'm not gonna want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be normalized, even if you are in a place of like higher up, if I keep emailing you and you're not reaching out to me, then I'm like, okay, I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to talk to you kind of thing.
Well, thank you so much for participating in this research project. Do you have any last thoughts that you want to share with us?
I guess I'm thankful to the university for giving me this opportunity. And I'd like to see where this project goes and be able to reflect back in the future, and be like, and that was a crazy time.
Yes. Well,
And
thank you
just
so
as,
much.
yeah, thank you, Sammy.